Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to video number 4 in the series I'm doing all about effective writing practices in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. In case this is the first video you are kind of popping in for, I did mention this is video number 4. I am taking Joan Sedita's The Writing Rope, and she broke down 5 different strands of writing that kind of go into skilled writing and teaching skilled writers. So what I'm doing is taking each of the 5 strands and diving deep a little further to see what practices we can take and use at the primary levels, so kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. Since this is video number 4, I already did this video up here about how to teach spelling and handwriting. I did this video right here, which is how to teach critical thinking, so brainstorming, as well as going through the writing process. And then I just did this video right here last week all about syntax and really focusing in on those sentence structures. That video and this video, I mean, they're all gonna be very important, but if I had to pick 2 right now, this video and this video are my top ones to watch, especially when teaching 1st grade. In today's video, we are diving into the text structure strand, which is going to include paragraph structure, narrative, informational, and opinion structures, different organizational writing patterns, as well as linking and transition words. If you're ready to see how we can teach these in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade classrooms, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and let's dive in. All right, first let's talk about paragraph structures, and really this is going to be a 2nd grade skill that we are going to focus on. In kindergarten, we want to make sure that by the end of the year, our students are fluent in handwriting and that they are able to form a sentence. Remember, those kindergarten standards still rely pretty heavily on drawing and dictation. So through oral language practices, through our illustrations, we want to make sure our students can form complete sentences. Then when we get to 1st grade, we want our students to take those simple sentences and really expand upon them. We want to introduce a variety of different sentences that our students can write. We want them to be able to use linking words. We want them to be able to take those sentences and expand them into even more detailed sentences. But also by the end of 1st grade, our students are producing texts that sound a lot like a paragraph. And we do this on purpose so that it kind of builds naturally towards the paragraph writing that we expect from our students in 2nd grade. So for example, in 1st grade, we definitely write our little opinion booklets, or we write a narrative booklet, and it does follow that paragraph structure. We have an opening, we have some details in the middle, and then we do provide some sense of closure. But that is what we're really going to expand upon in 2nd grade. Now, in my last video all about syntax and sentence structure, I walked you through my sentence writing unit with some of the different types of activities that I do with my students. Now, a few years ago, I also created a unit for teaching students how to write paragraphs. So I'm going to walk you through some of those activities. Just like in the last video, I want to share 2 important things. Number 1, I'm going to share the activities that I created because I already made them, so I can show you examples. That does not mean you need to purchase it from me. They are in the SJT Writing Club and they are on TPT, so I will link it down below in the description. But these are, again, the types of activities you probably want to do with your students. Now, the other important part is something I talked a lot about in the last video, so I won't talk as much now. But when we are teaching these skills to our students, how to write a paragraph, what the parts of a paragraph are, we want to make sure we are not spending too much time on defining and identifying these things. We want our students to do a lot of authentic practice, so we want them to actually write paragraphs. We just want to make sure that we're using our instructional time wisely and that we're not teaching these skills in isolation. Again, if we are just teaching our students to identify different parts of a paragraph or different parts of a sentence, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but we want to make sure we aren't spending too much time there, because all we're doing then is teaching them how to identify something instead of actually applying it in their own writing. That being said, let's take a look at some paragraph writing activities. Here is the beginning of this unit. This is set up in a similar way to my sentence writing one. So here are just the main ideas of what's going to be included. I want to explain what a paragraph is to students. I do have them identify the different parts of the paragraph at the beginning. I have students decide what's missing, and I'll show you what that means. I like to scaffold student writing by having them fill in different parts of a paragraph. And then of course we have them creating their own paragraphs. When introducing what a paragraph is, I like to use 2 different anchor charts. First, we talk about this one right here. It says, what is a paragraph? A paragraph is a group of sentences all about one main topic. And then I went ahead and color coded it here. We have polar bears love cold weather. That's going to be our introductory, our topic sentence. Then we go on to provide details. And then at the end, of course, we have our closure. And this goes perfectly with the other anchor chart, which is what I want my students to do when they're thinking about the structure of a paragraph. We have go, slow, and stop. We have what is your paragraph going to be about? Write your topic sentence first. Then we kind of slow down, let's explain more, add some details that share information about your topic sentence. And then we have stop, all done. Let your reader know this paragraph is complete with a closing sentence. So first step, of course, is always going to be that explicit teaching. What is a paragraph? What are the parts of it? What does it look like? And so on. After we've done that, I do like my students to be able to identify those different parts in paragraphs that we are reading. Here, for example, I have some identify parts of a paragraph. This is similar to my identify parts of a sentence, where I will have students pick 3 different colors. And then I have a bunch of different paragraphs that I already wrote. And I think it's important to note that I wrote a bunch of different paragraphs. Some are narrative, some are informative, and some are opinion types of paragraphs. So whether you're, again, using this unit or you're just doing this with your students, pick out different types of paragraphs. And I do that too because when we're talking about identifying a topic sentence, that often sounds and looks different based on the text structure, based on if it's an opinion paragraph, if it is a narrative text, or if it's an informative text. So I also like to use anchor charts like this one right here, where we have different types of topic sentences. Some might be questions, some might be a descriptive statement, and some might be an exclamatory sentence. And then I have the same thing right here for closing sentences as well. This really lets students see that they can start and end their paragraphs in many different ways, and also when they are identifying it, it might sound pretty different. So with those sheets, again, it's just some color coding. They are identifying the different parts of a paragraph, and then they're drawing a little illustration just so I can know that they actually understood what they read. In second grade, we pretty much do this independently, and then I would only have a small group back with me if they need help reading or if they need help with these structures in general and just identifying the different parts. Now remember, just like I said in my sentence video, these are example paragraphs and they are great. And like I said, I have them in 3 different formats with narrative, informative, and opinion. But if you just want to pull a paragraph from something that you are learning about, maybe it's a mentor text you're reading during reading time, maybe it's a science text or a social studies text, find an important paragraph that really emphasizes what you're learning, make photocopies of it, and you can do the same type of activity. The next type of activity will take things a step further. Instead of just identifying different parts of a paragraph, I want students to decide what's missing. Here is what that might look like. Now I have a ton of different examples like this where sometimes the topic sentence is missing, sometimes the closing sentence is missing, and sometimes a middle sentence is missing where we have some details. And students will need to go ahead and read what's already there. So frogs and toads look alike, but they are different in many ways. Frogs have smooth skin while toads have bumpy skin. And then blank. Next time you see an amphibian, see if you can figure out if it is a frog or a toad. Here, students need to recognize which sentence would fit better in the missing space. And this is going to have students rely on many different things. Just like when we have students fill in a missing word or two from a sentence, they have to think about their syntactic knowledge, right? And what word would make sense there. This is a similar type activity. They have to recognize, okay, this is not an opening sentence, this is not a closing sentence. This has to be, a supporting detail here in the middle. And then based on what else I read, which sentence would make more sense there, which is going to add to the paragraph. And then of course I always have a little illustration box for them to show their comprehension. The next type of paragraph activity is going to take things one step further, where instead of students just identifying which part is missing and which part would be better based on their knowledge, here students have to generate their own. So here, for example, it says complete in color. And for here, I really like to have students either completing a topic sentence or a concluding sentence that makes sense with the paragraph. Now, before doing this activity, I would definitely go over the different types of opening sentences and different types of concluding sentences that we can write. And then we would do this probably together first to generate some different ideas, and then students can go and try it independently. Last but not least, we of course have students crafting their own paragraphs, and I like to use an anchor chart like this one to go through the different steps. Brainstorm what you know about the topic, choose the topic sentence, what's this paragraph going to mostly be about, Write details to add more information about the topic. We have examples are reasons to support an opinion. They might have facts to support the topic or different events in a story. I do like to point out how, again, all three text structures are slightly different. And then 4 is going to be to choose a closing sentence to wrap up your paragraph. And just like with my sentence anchor chart, we have the same thing for number 5. Reread your paragraph to make sure it makes sense. We always want our students to finish their writing and then go back and reread it. After we walk through those steps, we of course use graphic organizers like this one right here, where we have our topic sentence, details, and a closing sentence. That's just one example, of course, but similar to my video that I shared, I think a few weeks ago when we were talking about planning and how important it is for students to plan out their ideas, you want to make sure that whatever graphic organizer you are using matches the text structure, the type of writing that your students will be doing. And then at the end of that paragraph unit, I of course had a bunch of different writing prompts in all three text structures, so in narrative, informative, and opinion, for students to go ahead and create on their own. Again, they were kind of random prompts that you can definitely use in your classroom, but also if you want to try to create those prompts and connect them to what you are learning, even better. There's one more paragraph activity that I thought was really helpful. It's not included in my paragraph writing unit, but I think I read about it in the Writing Revolution. So with this one, you will display a paragraph. So maybe again, find an important paragraph in something that you're reading. Type it up yourself, because in this one, you're going to want to include a misfit sentence. So you are going to put in a sentence that doesn't make sense. Maybe it's not related to the main topic at all. Maybe you put a closing sentence somewhere in the middle that kind of wraps it up. But basically what you'll do with this is you will read the paragraph aloud, and students will have to identify which sentence doesn't fit in and why. Again, this really helps them think about that text structure. Why should that sentence not be in there? Where should that sentence go? Does it belong in this paragraph at all? If it doesn't, we can just remove it. What does it sound like now that it's gone? And if we should move it, where should it go? That was just another great paragraph activity that I thought I'd pass along. All right, so in K-2, we pretty much noted that only our second grade students are really going to hone in on that paragraph writing and structure. Again, kindergarten and first grade, we do want them to understand the flow of things, right? But in second grade is really when we're gonna focus on that. So in terms of text structure, what do our kindergarten, first, and second grade students need to know? Well, I was actually typing up my own little, just looking at the standards, thinking about what kindergarten students need to know, first grade and second grade, and then I found in this book right here, let me grab it, Teaching Beginning Writers. They actually had a great chart that was already made for me, so let me show you what that looks like. These are the important elements that each grade level need to know within each genre. So you can see here that we have kindergarten, first, and second grade, and then within each genre, this is what we expect our students to be able to know about each text structure. This is what we want to see when we ask them to complete one of these writing tasks. I thought that was a very helpful kind of like scope of where our students need to be. So if you want to rewind and take a little picture of that, go ahead. But again, that table was just nice, clear, and concise for what we want our students to know. So based on that information, if that is where we want our students to get to by the end of the year, we need to work backwards, of course. And by doing that, this is where, again, we take our planning sheets and make sure they match the text structures, make sure they match what we're expecting. We know that we need to spend a ton of time brainstorming and planning our writing with our first and second grade writers before they go off and write it themselves. So taking a look at that chart again here, we want our first grade students to be able to share 2 or more sequenced events, so we need to make sure they go in order. They need to provide some details, they should have temporal words for order, and they should have a sense of closure. Think a few videos back how my first planning sheet had say and sketch, right? It had those temporal words right on the sheet, and I wanted them to say aloud each step in order and then sketch down to kind of plan their ideas. Then my students would need to go ahead and provide a sense of closure, and that's something I usually taught a little bit later, which is why it wasn't on that exact sheet. But if your students are at that point where they're able to add that closing sentence, you want to make sure your planning sheet really highlights all those different parts. Same with informative, same with opinion. So again, think about what they are supposed to do and how can you make your planning sheet really guide students for each of those steps. That also goes with our transition words and our linking words that we are teaching our students. If we expect them to write it, they don't always need to be written on the paper like I had in that say and spell sheet. Again, that's something I use at the beginning of first grade, so I do want them there as a scaffold. But if that's something we expect from our students, we should make a place on our chart to make sure that they know to add them in, right? So even if it's just a simple reminder, even if it's within each step, we have like a little circle, and that can tell them, hey, this is where your transition word is gonna go. Or if they're past that scaffold and maybe they're in second grade, we want to make sure that in their revision checklist, they go back and check that they do have those transition words in their sentence, and they can check for them, add them, and then check it off and say, did it. And now the last thing I really want to make sure I highlight in this video is to remember that not all of our students come to school with rich literary experiences. And that includes a wide range of things, but it also means that not all of our students have been exposed to opinion pieces before. Not all of our students have been exposed to narratives and storytelling. Not all of our students have been exposed to informative writing. We never want to assume that our students understand what those texts even are, how they sound, what they look like, the different elements, and also we don't want to assume that they understand the purpose of them. We want to make sure that we are explicitly teaching why someone would write an informative writing piece. What is the purpose? We're going to talk about purpose in our next video, but that's an important part to remember when we're thinking about our text structure. Why would somebody want to write an opinion piece? What are they trying to convey here? And why would somebody want to write a narrative? What parts of the story help someone write a narrative? We want to always make sure we're explicitly teaching all of those different text structures. Alright, so in this video I shared what paragraph writing should look like, as well as some effective activities for teaching students how to write paragraphs and understand that structure. And then I also shared some important parts about text structure. Specifically, as the teacher, you want to make sure you're teaching them what the text structures are, the purpose of them, what they sound like, what they look like, and then you want to make sure that your planning sheets align with the writing you expect from your students. Also make sure to go back to that little chart if you want to see what's expected within each genre and within each text structure for kindergarten, first, and second grade. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you in the next one. Bye.